Streamline your business with Javis Tax Services Payroll Services. We offer hassle-free payroll and direct deposit services for companies of all sizes. Our experts ensure that every detail is handled from setup to reporting. At Javis Tax Service, our cost-effective payroll solutions allow you to put your focus back on running your company. Call us today for a consultation and learn more about our payroll services. Call Javis Tax Service at 851-7112. That's 851-7112.
Hi, my name is Erica Gilliard, and I am representing the Gethsemane Youth Auxiliary right here in Columbia, South Carolina. On July the 30th, right here in Columbia, we're going to be having a youth day down at Finley Park starting at 3 o'clock p.m. We're going to be giving out school supplies. We have vendors. We have the group K4C coming all the way from Atlanta, Georgia. We also have Miss Ebony Dixon, who is a psalmist who's going to be performing for us. We also have Psalms 100. So come out, join us, and now we have Miss Teen Columbia, Alexis.
Yes, I'm Alexis Mitchell, your Teen Miss Columbia, Miss Black South Carolina. Join me in my project and bring toiletries for the girls in foster care.
I ain't gonna say.
Oh, they hear us now?
Oh
God.
Oh, man. What's going on?
Hey, how y'all doing?
Praise the Lord. God is good. If you're looking for a church home, God bless you.
Oh, man.
I still ain't found the video to share.
You ain't invite him yet? Go help him out, Jay.
I thought I invited him. I'm sorry.
We live now?
Yep.
What's going on, Facebook family? Make sure y'all hit that share button, drop them hearts, drop them likes, give us everything but the mad faces. We appreciate y'all for tuning in.
You can give me mad faces, too.
Nah, I don't want them. Man, shout out to everybody listening live on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. Everybody that's listening on iHeartRadio, we appreciate everybody that's downloaded the app and listening on the app. We appreciate all of y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in.
Before the show started, I just realized, Sean, you ain't my friend on Facebook, man. What happened? You delete me?
Were we ever friends?
Sean,
We was.
About that. I've been meaning to get to you about that friend request.
Sean, you're not missing anything. Okay, Jay, well, I'm done for real this time. I'm done. I'm out.
Oh, no,
I'm
it's
done.
all right.
No, I'm done.
We throw shots in this show, Bruce. It's okay.
Send me a request right now. Well, I'm stuttering. I done got to
White
Send them one
right now. White now.
Send me a WHIT now.
Right.
White now. I ain't even not on CP time. No. White now. Yeah, we ready. We ready.
Yes, I am the lamb that he promised you see, who gave my life so that you can be free. Through all the blood that I shed on the tree, giving all of me. Hey, when it come to my life, I'ma tell it how it is. Mama raised her a soldier, she prepared me for the field, and my father was with me about every day with the hammer in his hand. Hey, I'm just trying to keep it real, don't judge me, cause my life was so ugly, and I be speaking it plain. Cause who's a been to go till he stepped outside of the flame? Though I'm able, I know I won't survive my battle with Cain. But my death will give my brother an audience with the king. So, hey, let me die if that man will live.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Jay Will. You are now tuned in to another episode of Urban City Radio, where we bring you the sounds of boots on the ground.
What's going on, everybody? This your guy, AC the Future. Want to give a shout out to our co-host, Iceman, still home recovering. Continue to pray for the brother. But we got a litany of other guests here tonight. Go ahead and a litany. I hope that's the right word. But hey, go ahead and tell everybody your names. Introduce yourselves. Starting right here on my right.
Hey, what's up? What's up? This is Kevin Frederick, also known as Humble Servant.
What's going on? It's your man Big Red, Christian rap recording artist.
What's going on, everybody? This is Sean Bigby, also known as Sean Bigby.
And this is Bruce Robinson, known as Bruce.
And and we got Skyping in the Honorable Sir Tony G.
The Honorable.
The Honorable Tony G.
God's prophet.
EONYGEE in the building.
God's prophet.
Yo, before we tell them the topic, Jay, tell them why we do the show.
Yo, man, the reason we do this show, we believe there is a resurgence of believers being called back to the city to proclaim the gospel of Jesus Christ. And we want to highlight the usage of Christian hip-hop and urban ministry and urban missions. Boot up.
Yo, so today's topic is part 2 of Is the Gospel Industry Dead? If so, can it be resurrected? Tune in. We'll be right back. Boot up.
This is going to be funny.
Kev, what's going on, man?
Yeah. So, Sean, yeah, man, you don't like me.
Hey, no, let me tell you something. Here's what's funny. That joint had been sitting there for a minute. I just never pressed confirm. You just got confirmed tonight. Glory to his name. I said something just to you. You got confirmed tonight.
You better receive it. You better receive it.
I dare you to get up and run around right now 2 times. 2 times on one leg.
So if you haven't figured out yet, this is how the night gonna be.
My God.
All night long.
All night.
Hilarious.
Not all night, because
I mean, I understand.
Because bruh is hungry. I don't need no hunger.
I got my food in the car. I was trying to think whether I could bring it in.
Listen, if y'all get to talking too long, I might just walk up here to this church's chicken. Come back.
Sit down with it.
You want a biscuit?
Y'all want a biscuit? Anybody want a biscuit? Macaroni and cheese? Oh, well, they don't have macaroni in churches.
Hey, just bring me some fried okra and some hot sauce.
That fried okra got something on it, don't it?
Wait, Bruce, was that a tongue?
Yes.
That was something like it.
It was.
You're eating a chicken thigh. And another thing.
Is this going to be a serious conversation at all?
I hope so.
I got some things to say about this industry.
I don't know, because we got Tony G on.
I got some things to say about this industry. We're going to talk about him tonight.
Tony going to be dropping bombs all night.
I think we should have brought a referee. I don't know.
Oh, man, absolutely. I agree with that one.
I'm glad that we got some radio people here tonight. This is going to be good.
So they ain't here any other night?
Well, people that are on air.
You digging it deeper, brother.
This is what I mean. Let me go ahead.
You know what? Just stop while you're behind.
Sip some of your juice over there. Sip some of your Kool-Aid.
Yeah, so we are back. Thank y'all for tuning in live. Those that are tuning in live, we appreciate everybody. So, we're going to go ahead and let everybody reintroduce themselves live on the show. This time, tell everybody who you are, what it is that you do. Started right here on my right.
What's up? Like I said, my name is Kevin. Also go as humble servant. Right now I'm just serving as lead minister as far as music and praise and worship goes at Midtown 2 Notch. And leading life groups, pretty much meaning that we're all in different neighborhoods and showing different ways we can display Christ on an everyday setting. So,
amen. My name is Big Red, Kevin Felder. I'm a Christian rap recording artist. I'm also the station manager at Millennial FM 95.9, fairly new station that's designed to inspire young people through the new wave of inspirational music.
Yo, again, I'm Sean Bigby. I am the Creative Arts Director at Right Direction Church International right here in Columbia, South Carolina. I'm also a recording artist with a brand new release that I just released on Easter weekend called You Saved Me, that you can go ahead and get on iTunes.
Say it again.
Go ahead and
Google Play.
Go ahead and
CD
plug.
Baby, wherever you purchase your music, not wherever you stream it. We can talk about that tonight, too.
And my name is Bruce Robinson. I am a producer and assistant pastor of New Hope Outreach Ministries here in Columbia, South Carolina.
Tony
G, Vice President of Programming, Glory Communications, the PD of WFMV, which happens to be the first 24-hour FM gospel station in the country.
Wow.
Say that.
Hey.
So as y'all can hear, we got some pretty big league players in the building on tonight. We've already been told that we ain't radio hosts.
we just got told that. We don't do this for real.
We don't do it for real. But look, let's get the conversation started. So I'm going to just go ahead and throw the question out there, and y'all take it however y'all want to go. Is the gospel industry dead? And if so, can it be resurrected?
Well, the question is, what is your definition of dead?
Oh. You just going to start like that?
Just gonna throw the question right back. So we're talking, basically we're coming from the standpoint of, based off of what it was in times past, do you feel like it's dying? Do you feel like it's falling off? Or you feel like it's going to be obsolete in years to come?
Well,
the gospel industry.
I do believe that if we don't start writing for hearts and not charts, then we are soon to be failed. I think that the heart of the artist has now turned into a platform to perform. And if you just look at the sales, like the sales started shifting when we started trying to do new music inside of gospel music. And I think that the sound of gospel music has definitely evolved. I'm not opposed to, rap, but I think that it can definitely be resurrected or resuscitated, for lack of a better word. But I just think that we got to start first with our hearts and, just take the light off us and just kind of shift it back to where it's supposed to be, and that's the life of Christ.
Yeah, I agree with that. I got a question. Do we need the gospel music industry?
Ooh,
That's a good question.
I'm gonna just sit back and
because I think about, like you said, even last week about Marvin Sapp, and he's seemed a little upset because people in the kingdom weren't, I guess, supporting the kingdom. So if it's a kingdom question, I guess the kingdom question is, do we need the gospel music industry? Does the kingdom need that, or is it okay for it to die?
Wow.
I think that's loaded. And so, okay. So when you say, do we need the gospel music industry, I separate it like this. If you take away the quote-unquote gospel music industry, all you really have is the music industry. And we have to break all of those different things down by genre. So you've got, your gospel area of it, your pop area of it, your CCM or Christian music area of it, and all of those different types of things. So I think that it's going to end up happening because it's there. So you can't necessarily get rid of the gospel music industry, because as long as people put out music to be consumed by consumers, it's going to be categorized some kind of way. Right. So there's really no way to get rid of it. What we have to do and what we have to figure out is how to make sure that it continues to grow, or that it grows again. The biggest issue is we're only 3% of the market share.
Yep.
Gospel music is only 3% of the market share, and that that's not a lot. That ain't a lot. And so, and then you factor in radio, and you factor in streaming, and you factor in on the fact that that radio right now is not breaking new artists.
Yep.
And so the fact that you can still hear "Order My Steps" on the radio.
Yeah.
That's taking up somebody's space.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There aren't new artists and stuff being broken all the time, and so we've got to figure out how what other ways outside of radio. Not just saying that not putting all the blame on radio, because radio's there and it's a very valuable tool, but artists have to figure out what other ways can we get the message out to the masses without doing a complete disservice to what our industry is.
Well, that's a whole nother thing. Folks are just so fast to record with no plan. The biggest thing that I want to have my CD release at the biggest church in Columbia, and you're gonna sell 6 copies that night and just stop. You know what I'm saying? Like without a plan, you plan to fail.
Yeah.
And there are a million great singers who have the same anointing as you. So I don't want to hear this thing about, but my anointing is different. No, it's not. Stop it.
That's the truth. I think we have to be able to differentiate between artistry
and ministry.
Yeah.
And while you're differentiating between the two, know where they coalesce. Know where they're supposed to be at, how they're supposed to be together, but also how you're supposed to separate the two. When you're putting out a music to be in the marketplace, to be consumed, you have stepped into the role of an artist.
Yep.
And so there are certain things that go along with being in the role of an artist. It ain't just about being anointed and all of that good type of stuff. I mean, I'm all with it, and that's all well and good, and that's so cute and that's nice. But you need to. There are certain things that you need to be at.
Yeah.
There are certain people that you need to be connected to. There are things called budgets that you need to have in place.
Say that one more time,
you have to have money, and all of this type of stuff. There has to be investments. My last release, my first actual national release, I got in my car and I drove to almost every radio station in South Carolina, some of North Carolina, and a little bit of Georgia, just so that I could go and shake hands with program directors, get to know them, get to meet them, and so that I could hopefully get on the radio. That was my own investment. I put my own gas in my own car, and I did all of this type of stuff. And so now you got artists who pop up every day, because our market is saturated. All it takes is a MacBook computer, and you can be a recording artist.
I gotta say,
our market is so saturated, and it's oversaturated. We do new releases every single week of 4 and 5 different people in an artist. I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot.
No. That is so loaded. I'm gonna tell you why I blame folks like you who are seasoned in the game. Artist development is non-existent.
Right.
We have, first of all, we don't want to hear your song on Sunday morning, like praise and worship. Like, that's not the place for you to perform. That's ministry. And I think that's one reason why the church is starting to decline with attendance, because it's like we're seeing more of you and less of God every Sunday. But that's a whole nother dialogue.
Hold on, I want to hear Tony G's view, because man, Tony G's been sitting quietly. I want to hear, what do you have to say?
I'm glad you
He gonna kill us.
So upset. Yeah, I'm so upset that I'm not actually sitting here.
It's okay. It's okay. We love you, Steve.
But let me say this, because it was seen from the top that question about is the need for a gospel music industry, that might seem like that was an irrelevant question, but it is a very good question. Sure. And I think the problem that we're having now, and the reason that we're having this conversation, is because it's becoming more and more apparent that gospel artists are treating it exactly where that question can be posed. I was recently in a almost shout-out conversation about a gospel artist's music, and the question wasn't, is this gospel artist's music changing young people? Was it bringing them closer to Christ?
Exactly.
The question was, you to play it so it can cross over to R&B radio.
Right.
So the question is, are our artists giving the same credence or value to the gospel music industry as it once did?
And see, that's a good question, because now you see a lot of people, like you said, making crossover. Voos over there burning, but they're making a lot of crossover. I guess investments, and you see with Lecrae, with a lot of things that he's starting to do as far as changing markets, and you know, it's not new. He's actually been doing this for years. We talked about it on past shows. But even with what's the new feature with Nicki Minaj?
Oh yeah, the Tasha Cobbs with Nicki Minaj.
Can I jump in?
Yes, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, because you got to understand it. And Tony and I have actually had this conversation. So Tony, you probably know exactly where I'm about to go. I had a conversation about 4 years ago with Stanley Brown, and Stanley said this. He said the biggest issue that gospel artists have and gospel producers have is they're trying to write songs so that they will cross over. He said, but when you look at the songs that have actually crossed over,
gospel songs.
They were straight up gospel songs. He said, because here's the issue. If urban radio is going to play something that's going to be gospel, then they want it to sound like church.
Yeah.
They don't want it to sound like what they already playing. So you think about it. The songs that have organically crossed over, Take Me to the King, We Fall Down, Open My Heart, that was kind of in between.
Marvin Sapp song.
Never Would Have Made It.
Yeah.
All of these songs that crossed over were organically gospel songs that people, when they heard it, they got behind the message behind it, because the gospel is still what it is. And so some of these producers may not ever go to church anymore, so it's got to connect with what they know church to be like. And we trying to write this new stuff and make it sound like what what urban radio is playing, and they like, yeah, I hear that all the time. That ain't what I remember from church.
And then it's watered down.
So there ain't no power to it.
Yeah, like you can't, like, I have no problem with gospel rap, but my problem is
you do have a problem with gospel rap.
I'm about to say, I hear it. Twice.
You said this twice.
Said it twice.
Sir, you've said this twice.
That's actually the fourth time he said
it. Silence in the house of the Lord.
That came from your spirit and your heart.
This is what I'm saying. I have a problem with the quality.
Hold on.
Quality.
Break it down.
Yeah, you gotta break that one down.
I'm about to walk the text, Reverend. You cannot download a track off YouTube, put vocals on top of it, mix to that, and think it's quality. It's not competitive. It sounds like y'all did it in the back of the church in the kitchen, and y'all expect it to be competitive. I don't know why the radio not playing my stuff, because it don't sound good. We can't play that.
Now let me. I'm talking a lot, and I apologize.
No apologize. You make my job
easy.
easy.
Jump in on that. The reason that the radio won't play it, the reason that radio, in my personal opinion, Tony and Kevin, y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. The reason that radio won't play it is because our culture, church culture, doesn't gravitate to it.
That is it.
And so the reality of it is,
I think that's
because we don't hear it on Sunday morning. When we hear gospel music, we thinking about church and all of that kind of stuff. And let me dispel a rumor. Our counterparts, and if you could see my hand, I'm doing my hand like this. Our counterparts embrace it, because Lecrae does Winter Jam.
Yep.
Headlines Winter Jam. You know, so our counterparts. I'm talking about. He'll go and do Charles Stanley Church.
Yep.
Yeah.
But will never be seen at a Baptist church here in Columbia.
And then he turns around and win the gospel award.
Right, and when he questions it, and let's not talk about the fact that last year was it last year or 2 years ago when it was last year when he went #1 on all charts, how some of our executives in gospel were highly upset because he was #1 on the Billboard charts in the gospel section, and they were like, it's not gospel people that are buying it.
Matter of fact,
so they moved him to the contemporary Christian charts.
Matter of fact, I talked about it last week, and
see, this is why.
Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, go ahead, Tony.
I'm sorry. This is why the things that are happening even as we're speaking, like this conversation that Fred Hammond just had about Snoop Dogg. This is why that's troublesome.
I missed it too. What happened? Please fill us in.
This is why that's trouble. Well, the bottom line was he was basically, what's happening is everybody's getting wind of these collabos between, everybody's talking about the Jay-Z and the Clark sisters, but now they're getting wind of the Tasha Cobb and the Nicki Minaj. So everybody's feeling like now we got to put in our 2 cents about his point of view was, I'm going to defend gospel artists and rap artists getting together. But here's my problem with that and why it doesn't wash out with me. You are talking about doing a rap with Snoop Dogg, but you're not talking about your rap with Big Red. Why is that a point? Because your rap with Snoop Dogg money and your rap with Big Red is not going to make you, it's not going to mostly get you a whole bunch of airplay, and it's not going to make you a bunch of money. That's why I have to put it right there. I think it's more money written than ministry written. So
before anybody say anything,
oh my God,
over that, you're defending that over doing it with a quote unquote holy hip hop artist. You don't hear anybody having no conversation about that now.
Yeah. Sip the tea. Big Red, you got to follow that up.
Well, first, let me start by saying I was in church, so I haven't heard Fred Hammond's discussion about the whole Snoop Dogg collaboration. But what I did see, I began to Google and get on social media and see what everybody else was kind of saying once the story broke about the collab. First of all, Fred had dropped a tweet a long time ago saying he sent the vocals over.
Yeah.
Nobody talked about that. That tweet has been sitting out in the internets for a minute. And then Snoop dropped the little snippet on Instagram, and it became a big discussion. All these people are writing about it and all of that. And I saw some people saying, well, how is Fred going to do this collab with somebody in the world? Has he done anything with any Christian rap artists yet? And I saw somebody that I know actually chime in on that discussion and say, hey, actually, he did a song with Big Red. Let me state this. I'm not putting anything on Fred it's not his job to come out and endorse our song together. And I look at the pattern of what the world does. If anybody collaborates with each other, the artist that is the feature on that song, you don't see them going out there and saying, hey, y'all got to go out and buy the song. They might at the beginning, say, hey, go out and check my man. And he shouted me out on Erica Campbell's morning show. He didn't have to do that multiple times. You know what I'm saying? He shouted me out on his social media at the beginning while we were in the studio. So I don't think it's his job to come out and just say, hey, let me put on for Big Red forever. That's not his responsibility. I think he's responding to the mass criticism that he's receiving about the collaboration. So, but back to this industry thing, I think there's so many pieces in here. I have a marketing background, so when I look at industry and gospel music and Christian hip hop and just how all of this, and people are like, what's going on? Is it dying? Is it dead? My thought, and Kenny Smith touched on this last week, and I was just jumping up when he said it. It's innovation. I think, we can talk about spirituality and all that, but like Sean said, when you step into this space and I'm going to sell my music, you are now a business person now. Whether you see yourself as a business person or not, you are now entering into business. You're asking somebody to compensate you for what you're putting out. And so my question is, what are you putting out? Who are you? And why does what you're putting out, why does it matter? You're now you have to be just as relevant as Coca-Cola is when they put out a new product, or if Nike puts out a new product. They don't say, oh man, it would be cool if I made some little shoes with some fuchsia on it and some rubber soles with the swoosh on the bottom instead of the side. They don't just throw stuff out. They do market research. They want to see, what does the market want and how can I give them what they want. You know what I'm saying?
I want to ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Because I caught it at the beginning of the show when you introduced yourself. You introduce yourself as a Christian rap artist.
Right.
Now, I want to ask you the question: Why do you feel like do you feel like there's any box to you by labeling yourself that? Because that's the problem that a lot of quote unquote Christian rap artists seem to say that they feel like they have, but you did it without any problem or conviction.
Right. I mean, for me, I'm like, that's a part of, you know, and again, my marketing self. I'm like, I want you to know when you walk up to me, I want you to know what you're going to get. So I'm like, you ain't got to ask me, you ain't got to question, am I inspirational? Am I about to cuss? I'm like, this is, if you walk up to me on the shelf, it's like you're about to get Christian content. For me, and at this stage of my career and my life, I think it's important for me to let people know, and for who I'm trying to reach, that this is what you're going to get when you purchase a Big Red product. You know, unashamedly, you know, and not without knocking anybody else and what they do. I'm not getting into that discussion, but I'm just saying, for me, I want people to know that this is my worldview, that I'm going to be talking Bible, that I'm going to be talking about Christ and God and life through that particular perspective. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's just me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, go ahead. I was going to say, as we have this conversation and we talk about the gospel industry, I don't feel like we actually touch on the fact that this has all happened before. Yolanda Adams was on Bone Thugs and Harmony album. Mm-hmm. You had, let's see, Warren G was on Gospel Gangsters album. You had, and it's a list of artists. David Banner was on Mary Mary's album. Yeah. So it's a list of artists that's been doing this. Now I feel like Big Red said, now since it's more marketing than anything, because at one time it was we just do the song with each other because I'm a fan. Right. Now is I do the song with you because
if I can make money.
I'm trying to market.
It's generational though too. I feel like, you know what I'm saying, my parents or whatever went and like, you know, the Christian music of today or whatever, they feel like it's worth, and the same thing for their parents, for them. Like I feel like, you know, every generation we're gonna have this topic to some degree, whether or not this is too worldly or are they still trying to be a Christian, or are they crossing over and that kind of stuff. Kind of like even Kevin said with innovation, because it's gonna bring change. So it's like, you know, what is the ultimate answer to these people who seem to be crossing over and that kind of stuff? Because I promise you, 10 years from now, we're gonna have the same conversation again, and I'm gonna be doing it with my kids. And I was like, man, I'm mad at my parents for not liking the music that I listen to, and I know I'm gonna do it. We do it every time. Every time when you feel that shift or that swing, now they got something new going on in the church, and we didn't have that in our church. Let us think about it before we bring this in our church now, because we don't want to get things twisted. So, I mean, it's gonna be generational to some degree.
Now I want to, and that's a good point that you brought up, because that was an issue that we talked about on a previous show. We talked about, you know, the generational issue possibly being the reason why Christian rap is such that's so hard to do. Bruce touched on, maybe it was Sean that touched on it, talking about basically that's not what people think about when they hear gospel. So when you think about gospel music, you don't originally go to a rap sounding thing, and so that was and then like you said earlier, it led to Lecrae when he made, you know, #1 in the gospel charts. That the response of the industry was to push him out of that chart, and so that's what we asked the question. So you think about the moves that Lecrae made, not to bash him or to down him, but just thinking about it from that standpoint. It was what he's doing as an artist something that seems to be a legit move to make because of the response that happened when he went #1.
It's working.
So wait. Go back. Let's go back. What moves is he making?
Well, you see now he's, you know, okay, he started 5 years ago, but of course, you know, now he's coming out more so saying not to call him a Christian rapper. He's not going by that label anymore. He's more so just being, he wants to be known as just a rapper, which opens him up to more charts, you know, puts him in a different market.
I think I'm about to say something maybe controversial. I think it's wise. Okay. I think because, again, now with him being, just call me a rapper, because I've topped all charts. I topped all the charts and stuff. And so that's what he said. I've topped all the charts. I was the #1 selling artist, period, in the country across all charts. You don't have to label me as anything. I let my life speak for me. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I mean, I think the funny thing is, because we don't say anything about all the gospel folks and Christian folks that say that they gospel and Christian, and then their life don't match up to that.
Exactly.
Oh God.
Amen.
Yeah.
Bruce, tag.
It's quiet in here.
Oh no, go ahead, Red. I'm sorry.
Oh no.
I just want to throw this out there. You know, I sit back and look at the moves that different people make, you know, across the industry. I just want to throw this out, rhetorical question. You know, if we are Christians, right, and our ultimate job is not to be a chart topper or to sell a certain amount of records, if at our core, which nobody knows our true core except our maker, right? So if at our core, we're really in it to win souls,
All right.
I just wonder if we'll look back at 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and say, all these moves that people are criticizing Lecrae for doing, what if it's all a very strategic plan for soul winning? Because take all the other stuff away, the controversy away, you can't deny the incredible platform that he has right now. So you have a spotlight. The world spotlight is on you. You know, nobody in this room been on the. I mean, you might have played at the BET Awards or something like that. I mean, so you played at the right. So you may have been there, but I mean, you look at him accepting a speech. The world is watching you. They're recording everything that you're saying.
Right.
They're critiquing your sound bites. So the world is watching your moves, and I just wonder if, you know, if he's doing some of these things, it's just like chess moves. You know, to get close to people that you and I may never be able to minister to. Because there are certain rappers that me saying I'm a Christian rapper and sticking to my guns on that, they might not ever listen to a Big Red record. And that's cool. But Lecrae doing what he's doing, they may say, you know what? Let me hear what this brother got to say. I respect him. And then they start to, if he's filled with the Spirit of God, and he's creating things as the Spirit of the Lord is leading him. And now, man, when you said that, I can relate to that. Yo, let's do lunch sometimes. Yo, let's talk more about that record that you did. Yo, and then now he gets an opportunity to minister to him. Nobody is having the ministry conversation. We all concerned about, is he fitting in the box that we want him, that we want to call him, or the box that we thought that he came out of. Go ahead. No, that's it.
Well, I mean, and you know, here's the crazy thing about what you're saying. The results of what he's doing and how he's doing it, if it is a very strategic plan to get souls saved, we'll never know the true result of it. You know, and he'll get to heaven and God will say, man, you really did an amazing job with the gift that I gave you. Because the Bible says that it's one's job to water, it's one's job to plant, it's God's job to give the increase. So we don't necessarily know what just somebody being high off, you know, high out of their mind, hearing a Lecrae lyric, how it may stick in their spirit. And the next thing you know, their life has changed because of something later on down the line, all because they happen to listen to this dude who did not label himself and wouldn't allow himself to be boxed in.
It's just like if you even think, I know, I'll think about one thing. You've been doing the show for like a week and a half, and I ain't heard not one scripture from nobody. Lady, you talking about being a Christian, but either way, the thing I wanted to bring up is, and if Kevin
you didn't give one either.
I know exactly. I may go into it, but even like what Kevin was saying earlier, if he calls himself a Christian rapper, that's cool. But at the same time, even biblically, whether Christians, did they call themselves Christians, or did other people see them and call themselves Christians? You know what I'm saying? They didn't give themselves that label. So I would hope and pray, kind of like you were saying before, if that is who Lecrae is, and these people who he is reaching out to, they will say, even though he don't call himself a Christian, I see Jesus in this brother. You know what I'm saying? Like, even biblically, I'm saying before, the Pharisees or whatnot stuff, they would call Jesus a drunkard and a glutton, but the people who actually walked with him would not say that. They wouldn't label him there. And so I'm hoping, like we were saying before, if Lecrae is that Christian, then it's going to come out of him. And even if he doesn't call himself that Christian rapper, the people who are around him are like, he's a Christian rapper.
So I'm sorry.
No, I was going to ask Tony, what was his thoughts on the moves Lecrae has been making in the past few years?
Well, I mean, ultimately, I think the table has made the point on that, because we experienced ourselves Lecrae here in Columbia a few years ago, and we had a testimony of a lady. I can't remember if she was in Virginia, New York is where she was from. was from New York, and she noticed that her grandson liked Lecrae and heard that he was actually going to be in Columbia. He went, got him out of school, brought him to Columbia just to see him live, and hoped that his impact on him would allow him to be able to minister to other kids in his.
Wow.
So whatever Lecrae is doing, it's working.
It's working.
Mm. And going back to the industry side of it, I had the great honor of opening up for him on his destination tour when he came through Columbia.
Absolutely. Whoop, whoop.
Yeah. So I saw the behind the scenes, the leading up to the concert, and the professionalism that was there. Mm-hmm. I mean, from, okay, we set up some of the radio interviews and the TV interviews. It was like you had to get permission and, send this email. You don't just do anything on your own. The branding had to be on point with all their marketing and things of that nature. The run of the show was just tight. The presentation from the DJ to the drummer to the video wall, everything was synced up, and it was so tight that it's like, man, I respect this professionalism that he's putting forth. He don't just haphazardly have the #1 album in the country.
To it.
Exactly.
The formula.
Exactly. So it's like I'm sitting here the whole day like, man, I'm gleaning. Like I'm not trying to copy him, but what part of his professionalism
do I need?
And expertise can I glean from and apply to myself to make my next product even better?
Tony just said something.
And another thing about Lecrae, real quick, is the fact that, the company that he's with now, most of that is under Sony Records, and they treat him just like any other Sony artist. And that's to Kevin's point. You're not going to just do anything any kind of way. He's being handled like anybody else that's under Sony Records. So the professionalism is going to be there. What he puts out, the things behind him are going to be there. All those things are already going to be set up because the way he's being treated by the music industry at this point.
Wow. Tony just said something. He was talking about the testimony of the young lady from New York and her son, and it just reminded me of the scripture where John the Baptist, who had, I'm a word person.
There we go.
It reminded me of the scripture where John the Baptist had been in prison for so long, and he told his disciple to go check with Jesus because he was like, Jesus, I've been talking about you and all of this kind of stuff, and you just leaving me up in jail.
Right.
And he said, go ask Jesus, is he the one or should we look for another? And Jesus' response was, I'm going to come get you out. His response was, look at all the stuff that's happening.
Exactly.
He said the dumb can talk, the blind can see. He said, so let that be the response, or let that be the answer to your question. So when we ask the question, is Lecrae Christian? What are you doing working? And why would he want to da-da-da-da-da? And then you hear testimony like that.
It's fruit.
All you got to do is just say, man, just look at what's happening from it. Whatever he decides to call himself, I could care less. As long as he's doing what he's doing and it's working and it's effective, who am I to judge? Who are me to judge?
Who are me to judge?
Who are me to judge?
So, Bruce, what's your thoughts?
I think that these guys have hit every nail. I think that the church has the wrong perception of what glory looks like. When you start talking about Jesus in his glorified form, it was the worst natural shape of his life. And I think that when we can be transparent with the world and say, hey, I used to look like you are, I still do sometimes, but I still bear this fruit. That's what I'm saying. Like, we're still, the reason why we're dying is because it's more us driven than him driven. Like, our hearts are towards, I'm trying to sell records but still do ministry at the same time, and that's conflicting. And I just agree with these guys. These guys made some great points.
Now, the question I want to ask when I'm listening to everybody's perception of it is, okay, so I'm looking at what Lecrae's doing, I'm looking at the success, and I'm seeing the fruit. But then I'm looking at the gospel industry and some of the moves that they're making, and I'm wondering, are they going to have the same fruit, or is their decision going to lead to a lot more destruction? Because Lecrae can make, like, Lecrae's doing the same. All right, so if you look at what Lecrae is doing, crossing over, calling himself a rapper, doing features with secular artists, you know what I'm saying? Same controversy, had the same standard, same banner, but a different market as far as he's considered a rapper, not a gospel rapper, not a Christian rapper, but just a rapper. But it's okay because, when he started out and everything that he did, he had a standard, kill me if I don't preach the gospel, was the music that he was putting out. He still talks about God, but it's not on that level of degree. But then you see the Kim Burrell situation, you see the Tasha Cobb situation. Is that going to have the same effect that Lecrae is having?
Let me say it like this. I'll say it like this, and I'll stand by it. I'll stand by this to the day that I die.
Go.
Not everybody can be number one.
Right.
Not everybody will die the same death. Not everybody will walk the same path. So when you look at the formula of Lecrae,
right,
you can't really try to compare it to anything else that's happening, because that's just the grace that he walks in, and that's the plot of that God had. That's the plan that God had for his life. When you look at Pastor Kim Burrell and what ended up happening through that situation, that was the plot, that was the plan of God for her life. And so we don't necessarily know what the end result is going to be, except God should get the glory.
Right.
However that looks.
Right.
So when you think about the disciples, okay, you got Jesus who was crucified, but then you got some of the disciples who were crucified upside down. Then you got another disciple who was crucified that was upside down and his arms were broken. I mean, they went through some stuff, but that doesn't mean that the message didn't get out. It just means that their journeys took them on different paths. So we just got to make sure that, my pastor from home says it like this. He says, if the world standard of success is a 10 and God's standard of success for you is a 3,
exactly,
will you be okay with 3?
Exactly. And that's
I want what they got.
Will you keep trying to get 10?
I want what they got. And that's what they think like.
Right.
I want to have houses and cars. Like, we all can't have #1 records. We all can't have mega churches.
Right.
But be good where you at. Like,
exactly.
And see, I think that comes from insecure artists, which don't make sense. But I'm going to ease off that.
The reason why I said what I said, my bad, real quick, what I said before, that not that I want the gospel music industry to die, but is success that important, more or less? Can you be okay with being forgotten or not being, you know what I'm saying, where Lecrae is or whatever, or is success the ultimate, you know what I'm saying?
I think first of all, what is the definition of success?
Right.
I got a church now with about maybe 50, folks. I'm happy there.
Exactly, yeah.
I'm happy knowing that I'm in God's will. If I never have a ministry with 5,000 members, I'm grateful for the 50 people that I've spoken to, and their lives have changed. I'm cool with going to heaven just like that, because we can't take plaques to heaven. But he said, I got a mansion over there. Waiting on me. Lord, I feel like preaching already.
We got scripture back now.
To your point, I think that it is important that the gospel music industry does not die, because, and mainly from a spiritual standpoint, is where I'm coming from. It's like, number one, we out here right now. So for the industry to die, it doesn't represent the Jesus that I serve well. I don't think. Yeah. I think it makes us look weak. Mm-hmm. I think it makes us look like we weren't able to get this commerce thing down packed. We weren't able to make creative songs. You trying to tell me that the creator of the universe can't impart a piece of creativity into us that can resonate with the world that he has called us to save?
Yeah.
Through his son? That just don't make sense to me. I think, and I think the amazing songs that have shot to #1 or gotten the national success, I think those are like glimmers and small pieces of what that big picture can look like. And I wanted to ask you, being a producer, what does it look like in a studio session for you when you're working with a new artist or somebody who's saying, I want to come out here, and they know that you are talented at what you do, and what does that creative process look like? Because it's starting there in the studio or in those songwriting sessions. It's starting there. You know what I'm saying? So like, how much are artists coming to you with, this is what I want to do, and I just want you to, play around what I'm giving you?
I don't even do those.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't even do those. That's such a loaded question again, man. I think it starts in your relationship with God, first of all. Mm-hmm. And when as soon as I sit down to make a song that I feel like I've learned to sharpshoot. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not finna come in here guessing. I don't sit down at Logic or at my Pro Tools guessing what I'm going to do. I don't even touch a song until I hear the end of it. And if I don't hear the end of it, I'll get the artist and say, well, listen, I know a guy that can do this. Because I don't really believe in wasting my time or theirs. And I think that's the reason why the music industry is so overly saturated with a bunch of just music because it's not even well thought out. It's just almost, God gave me a song in the shower and I want to release it to the nation. Maybe that song just may be for you in your shower.
Exactly.
Be okay in that moment of greatness.
Be okay.
Or it might be for your local church as well.
Yeah.
There's an amazing book that I read, and I'm about to mess up, Monica Coates. It's called The Beginner's Guide to the Gospel Music Industry. Phenomenal book. And she has a amazing history in the gospel music industry from
Monica works for Kurt, right?
Yes.
For Your Soul.
Yeah, right. So she just talks about her journey of servanthood all the way up to the seat, that she sits in now. But it's one thing that she said in there that stuck with me. And I read the book right at the beginning of my, feeling like God had called me to go out and be a professional at recording music. I read this because I knew this was a space that I was going to be going into. And something that she said was, you need to know what God has told you about your calling in this space, because some people are called to the local church. Some people are called to, you might be a regional artist, and that's great.
Where do I sit?
Or might be a national artist, and you might be an international artist. But everybody thinks like
I'm going to the
their
nations.
Sound is for the world, and it might be for your house of worship.
Exactly.
And that may be a perfect song that makes your church go up, ministers to that house, changes those 50 lives, those 100 lives, those 1,000 lives. Even the biggest mega church in America is still small in comparison to the world. So we have to be content with what am I called to do.
Jesus himself, was God in the flesh. And if he wanted to, I personally believe he could have told the gospel to everybody on the world at any time because he was God in the flesh. But he didn't decide to do that. Made disciples, and they spread, and they spread, and they spread, and they spread, and they spread. It's like, the man walked on water, pretty much teleported. He could have, appeared in everybody's room at the same time and preached the gospel to everybody or whatnot, but that
none of us would be here today.
I wanna bring out a point, man. It's I think the guy's name is Brandon Tejo or something like that. It goes by I think it goes by Kingdom Music. He has a song called Captivity of Comparison. Basically what he's talking about in that song is how even as Christian artists, or Christians in general, what kills us is we're so busy looking at what somebody else is doing, and we try to model our lives based off of what somebody else is doing, that we can't figure out what we're supposed to be doing. And I think when you look at, and it's just my personal opinion, when I look at some of the moves that even some of the modern gospel singers are making, as far as the market industry is looking, the way they promote it and the things that they're doing, it to me it looks so much like imitation rather than genuine creativity. So now you're not seeing the gospel market in its genuineness that we so love, where the creativity came from a pure place, and then it wasn't created for the simple fact of just being marketable. It's good to be marketable, but even when I think of gospel music, I think of genuineness. And so if you're going to market something to me, market genuineness.
Listen, one of the most thriving moments of music was when it was the Hawkins and the Winans. The same thing, but done two different ways, that was done in excellence and being genuine. Like, I don't want a song, because folks say this all the time, you know what I'm saying? Like they walk in the studio, I want a song like what Sean Bigby wrote. Sean Bigby just did the song. Like, why would we do that? But that's because what they want are the same fruit of what Sean is doing.
Right.
And that's stupid.
I think one of the most authentic people in gospel music right now, and we're seeing his rise, and I'm hoping that people are paying attention to him, is Jermaine Dolly. Jermaine Dolly he's creating his own lane. He's doing his own thing, and when you do that, people come to your doorstep.
Right.
So now Radio 1 comes to him and says, hey, you kind of intriguing, and you got all of these followers and stuff. We need to give you a radio show.
Right.
Yeah.
And let you play in Philly on Saturdays. Let you have so you're another gospel artist with a radio show in Philly on Radio 1. But they came to him. He has no label. He has no financial backers. This dude goes door to door and sells his CD in Philly. And he's working like crazy.
Period.
But he's authentic. When you experience him, it was so funny. He did a show at somebody's family reunion.
But
he got booked to do somebody's family reunion and just had fun with it. I mean, so he's authentic. He's genuinely who he is, and people, we're enamored by authenticity.
Yeah,
because everybody always talks about, man, you just need to keep it real. Just keep it real. Just keep it real. But I think sometimes we get lost. We don't know what real is anymore.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought up authenticity, because last week when we had John Lakin on, he said something. He said a lot of gospel artists come in to try to get their R&B rocks off in the gospel industry. And I want to know,
hold on, what?
They come in to get their R&B rocks off in the gospel industry.
Start over one more time so I can make sure that I heard.
Tony, you got something to say? I hear you.
Yeah, well, therein lies just some of the questions and the issues that we're kind of dealing with now. What the trend has been, and remember now, I've been doing gospel radio now for 14 years. So I've watched it very closely. One of the trends that's happening is that R&B artists that are getting played out, ain't been on the table for years, they have decided to jump on the gospel bandwagon. And because in an overall sense, the gospel industry is a hot new thing. Keep that in mind now. It's still really a hot new thing that all of a sudden just came out of nowhere and is shining like never before. So what they're doing is they come over, they make a gospel album to reinvent themselves, and then you notice 9 times out of 10 they go right back to what they were doing. They're to recreate and re-rise their careers. So that's where I think a lot of people are having their questions about some of the artists that are doing some of the things now. Is it real? Is it really about ministry? Is it really all of a sudden your heart has changed? Or are you simply trying to revive your career?
Yeah.
That's why I'm about to go quartet. Y'all think I'm playing, but quartet never shares their market share. As far as their artistry is concerned. So if Lee Williams comes to Columbia, and he does Columbia, Florence, Orangeburg, and Charleston, the same people that came to see him in Columbia will follow him to Florence, will follow him to Orangeburg, and will follow him to Charleston. They don't share their market share. Me as a I guess you would call me an urban or contemporary gospel artist, I share market space with myself and everybody that's in the genre with me. Then I also share with anybody who's in R&B, then with anybody who's in pop. So like if who's out, like if Tori Kelly drops a record the same weekend that I drop mine, then people are like, Shauna Tori Kelly, Shauna Tori Kelly. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get that Tori Kelly. But if I'm in quartet and I do quartet music, they are hardcore. Like they gonna stick with.
I gotta say this. I've made more money doing those records than I've done doing any mainstream gospel record.
They work every week.
It's a single that I just did for this group that's called the Gospel Legends, and the song is called oh my God, I'm Resting Easy or something like that. They've been on the road for a year and a half just with that single, and I have. Thank you. Shout out to the Gospel Legends. God bless you. And heaven smile upon you.
The checks were good, huh?
It's the truth.
And I thank you.
Here's the crazy thing about it. They won't come up in any radio conversation. They won't come up in any conversation that we're having like we're having right now, because our eyes aren't really on them. But they're working consistently. And they're just not as educated as far as the business is concerned. You're not gonna see them on Billboard charts, but I guarantee you they outselling everybody.
Everybody,
because they working all the time.
Well, I think a point to that, Sean, is back to what Big Red was saying. And it's not that they don't have the education. They know their audience, and they simply go to they work every weekend. They pack up on Fridays, come back on Sunday nights, Monday. And everywhere they go, it's packed out. They're selling product. So they know their audience, and they know that wherever they go, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be able to get what they need out of that particular visitation.
No identity crisis.
No identity
crisis.
That's good.
I'll take my seat
record
after
gonna
this.
be the exact same every single time.
Absolutely.
One thing with that, talking about the court, you're making me think now. Going back to audience and desire for a product, that audience wants
what
they're offering.
And then
so
they make it so believable, Red. Like,
right. So going back to the gospel industry as a whole, do the consumers want what the gospel industry is putting out? And why not?
Well, it's interesting because Tony just said, people are crossing over from R&B to drop a gospel album because they take the sound and then they go back. Well, gospel artists, if that's the case, we can't use the excuse anymore that the sound is behind. We can't, either in gospel music and in Christian hip hop.
Dated.
You can't use that. You can't use that excuse anymore.
I don't think that was ever an excuse.
Yeah,
it was for a lot of people.
Like who?
I'm gonna tell you why I don't think that was an excuse. Because if you look at your main secular acts, your pop artists and all of this kind of stuff, your Justin Timberlakes and all of these cats, their musicians, their producers are all straight out the church.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Justin Timberlake did a song called "Drink You Away." He did it on the Country Music Awards. I think it was last year. Him and some other dude that I just could not believe sung the way that he sung. I looked at his band, and I'm like, all of them cats are from Philly, and they out of somebody's church.
Oh yeah.
Like every last one of them were straight up Philly cats playing at somebody's church, and I was like, this is a church song.
I gotta say this.
This is a church song.
But that is so loaded again. I had the privilege of playing behind Sister Fantasia Barrino for 7 years, and I felt more church on stage with her than I do in some of these churches. And folks was like, how can you play? You're serving two gods. No, I'm advancing one God. And that's why I still have the resource to speak to the head of labels to say, hey, Jesus saves. I've been in sessions when writers be like, I don't understand that babbling and y'all speaking in tongue and spitting on the floor. But, just to even have a dialogue with them or where that comes from. And, it's like, wow, I respect it now. But we won't even get out there to even say, because I can't go into that club because the devil is a liar and he won't have me and he's working with power. Stop being so churchy, because you are the church. Like, your life should really exude God's fruit. But we just so churchy till we miss God.
I think Bono, I believe it was, correct me if I'm wrong, he had a huge headline that he said, he kind of called out Christian music and basically said we need to be more authentic in our music. And I think that's an opportunity for us, especially to all the artists who may be tuned in. I see them on Facebook Live. There's a lot of artists in there. I think it's a challenge to all of us to, okay, let's look at it and not get lost or dismayed about the state of the industry, to say, okay, let me first go back to God.
That's first.
That I'm lined up with him. God, am I saying what you want me to say and how you want me to say it? I mean, on this, and I'm not saying this in any self-promoting way, but when I wrote this song that's out right now, Running Back to You, I was in a coffee shop
on iTunes,
and I
go buy it.
Go buy it.
Stop. But seriously, when I was writing this song and I knew where the song was going, I literally started crying.
Wow.
And it was because, number one, I was unearthing stuff from my past and putting it into my lyrics, and then I was afraid that by putting that content into the song that I was going to be, people was going to start looking at me funny or questioning, like, did this really happen to you? Are you talking about yourself? And just the pride kind of welling up. So, but once you yield and you're like, okay, I'm gonna put myself out there so that somebody else can see that transparency and then feel like, man, this is authentic, this is real, I can relate to the relationship with God that you're talking about and those struggles and all of that, then people can connect with it. And I'm not saying everybody has to do that in every song, but on your whole album, can we get something that people feel like, man, this touched me, and I think that is what'll help kind of take industry there. When we do ministry first, I think the industry has the potential then to follow behind.
Let's go back to what the Bible says.
There we go.
Let's go back to what the Bible says. When Jesus, after he had been crucified and he came back, the Bible says that he appeared again to the disciples. All right? And so he appears to the disciples, and everybody knows the story of doubting Thomas. Thomas said, I'll never believe, I won't believe that he got up till I put my hand in the nail prints and all of this kind of stuff. Okay, cool. So he appears to the disciples, everybody's worshiping and all of this kind of stuff. He goes up to Thomas and says, go ahead, Thomas, put your hand there. And Thomas says, I believe now, Father, all of this. And he says, blessed are they that have not seen, yet still believe it. But there's another revelation that comes out of that. the other revelation is some people aren't going to believe in the God that we serve until they see the wounds that we have. And so until we can get to a place where we're actually transparent and actually willing to be, full-fledged naked in front of these people and show what comes from the heart reaches the heart. And I think that's what Bruce was trying to say. What are you saying in these songs? We got these one-line songs now that are supposed to be about God. You can't say no more than one line. And a vamp that just said, I'm about to mess up. That says nothing. You don't have no lyrics in your vamp. What is that?
As much as you please.
And that's what breaks that Christian rapper. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with being called a Christian rapper, which is good. But that's what breaks that wall down, because when people see Christian, people see Pharisee. I'm not good enough to listen to this song or to whatever this Christian rapper is saying, because they talking about me and how I still drink but to know that, I still struggle with drinking or whatever breaks that Christian rapper Pharisee line down to where, I'm saying, I can tell you Lecrae is a Christian. I can tell you that Kevin is a Christian, and that kind of stuff. But until a lot of times with the church music in that box that we have, you can't break it down if there is no authenticity where you let people know, give them the opportunity to see that there's grace for me too, and there's grace for you. So,
Amen. Hey, so that is the show.
Wow.
Yeah. I want to give a shout out to my kids.
Yo,
that's it.
Hey, go buy Big Red's record.
And Sean's record.
And Sean's record.
God bless your heart.
And Jay Will's record.
Jay Will has a record?
AC the Future's record.
Yeah, you can buy mine.
Right here.
I'm featured on his record. I'm featured on his record. How about that?
Oh, that's a blessing.
Man, we thank everybody for tuning out there on Facebook Live, iHeartRadio, YouTube, everybody that's listening in. We appreciate all of the guests. Tony G, we appreciate you.
My man.
Tony G, the legend himself. I got to give a shout out to my sister Cheryl Fortune is on here on Facebook Live. She says we talking good in this room. She got a record coming out. I love that shit.
We definitely love the song.
And y'all keep singing them one lines. Y'all have a good
They just gonna throw salt
on the rappers. Don't have me to start ranking on the rappers.
Really? We go
Urban City Radio, we bring you sound of boots on the ground. Boot up.
Boot up.
Hey, let's record next week.
Hey,
Tony G, you got anybody you want to shout out, brother?
Hey, when do I speak in tongue?
Never. I say never on
now. And then
never on it.
How about that?
All right. Humble, anybody you want to shout out?
Shout out to the people who use script. Now I'm just playing. Yeah, it was a good show, man.
Or the rappers that don't use scripture.
And Bruce, these chords are
Bruce, you just uninvited yourself to any other.
I love gospel rap, though, by the way.
Bruce, so sorry.
Okay, but you know what? Hold on, but y'all playing games. Now, I know the show got to be over with or whatever, but so do all songs have to be like scripture songs?
No,
absolutely not.
No.
Oh, okay, because that's becoming a problem for some people. It's kind of becoming problematic. Like, it's got to make sure it's scripturally.
Lecrae don't.
I think the problem people have.
Over.
Well, I've always believed. Yeah, the show's over. We done.
God bless you. I'm leaving. God bless you.
I think the problem people have is for me, I'm kind of like Big Red. I consider myself a Christian rap artist, but the reason why I can handle that is because I don't look at me calling myself a Christian artist putting me in any kind of box. You know what I'm saying? I understand the God that I serve, and I understand who He is. He's the creator of all. That means if He created everything, every experience that I have, love, pain, hurt, all of these things. So then if I limit myself, it's because I've limited my understanding of the God that I serve. So,
well, are you speaking in tongues?
Yes. He's trying to sneak it in.
Facebook Live, we love y'all.
Facebook Live.
Facebook Live is still going?
Facebook Live is still going.
Oh, God bless y'all. Thank
you. We got the best Facebook Live crew ever because they never leave. Like, we be here, and it's like an hour after the show, they still watching like, yo, y'all still talking good, though.
Hey, man,
that's good, Jay. That's good.
Bless y'all.
I want to say thank you guys for inviting me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like you
Thank
sometimes,
you guys
Bruce.
as well.
I really thought Bruce just showed up, to be honest with you. Like when he walked in, everybody kind of looked like, why he here?
Because I'm accomplished. I'm accomplished. I have a few awards in my living room. God be praised.
Oh my God.
I love you, Bruce, for real, though. That's my dude right there.
He's so humble.
Yeah, he's such a humble dude.
The
man.
most humble I've ever met.
I was like,
Definitely.
I really love God,
Humble
though.
is Fantasia instrumentalist.
I was not instrumentalist. I was MD. God bless you.
MD.
No, listen, man.
MD.
Well, listen, I just thank God because I just love God.
There you go.
yeah.
That's a great way to
That's a great way to end it.
And God
have a
bless
blessed one.
So what we doing this again?
Hey, I enjoyed this, man. This was dope.
Dude,
Yeah.
we had so much fun.
Oh, yeah.